Welcome back to The Art of Meaningful Connection, a podcast dedicated to transforming how we connect with others in our increasingly disconnected world. I'm your host, Ling, and I'm thrilled to have you join me for another exploration of timeless wisdom that can revolutionize our relationships. In our first episode, we discovered the powerful impact of withholding criticisms and seeking to understand rather than condemn. Today, we're diving into what might be the most profound human desire, one that shapes virtually every interaction we have with others. We're continuing our journey through Dale Carnegie's masterpiece, How to Win Friends and Influence People, with Chapter 2, which reveals a fundamental truth about human psychology, the deep, insatiable hunger for a feeling of importance. In the next hour, we'll explore why this desire drives so much of human behavior, how great leaders throughout history have harnessed its power, and most importantly, how you can apply this knowledge to create more meaningful connections in your own life, at work, at home, and in every relationship that matters to you. So settle in, bring your curiosity, and prepare to discover one of the most powerful forces shaping human interactions. This is the art of meaningful connection. Begins Chapter 2 with a profound statement from philosopher John Dewey, who called the desire to be important the deepest urge in human nature. William James reinforced this, saying, "People's deepest craving is desire to be appreciated." Think about that for a moment. Not the desire for food, shelter, sleep, or even romantic love, but appreciation, recognition, a sense of importance. Freud called it the desire to be great. Alfred Adler described it as the desire to be superior. And every human being you've ever met carries this hunger within them. This desire manifests everywhere we look. Why do people pay for luxury brands when less expensive alternatives function just as well? Why do we post our achievement on social media? Why do executives work 70-hour weeks long after they've earned enough money to live comfortably? Why do people risk their lives climbing mountains or breaking records? At the core, it's this hunger to feel important, to be valued, to matter. Carnegie shares the striking example of how people even commit crimes to satisfy this craving. He tells us about a man named Crowley, known as Two-Gun Crowley, a notorious criminal who killed without remorse. Yet, when cornered by police after a shootout, he wrote a note saying, "Under my coat is a weary hurt, but a kind one that could do nobody any harm." Even this hardened criminal couldn't admit to himself that he was anything less than admirable. That's how powerful this need is. It can distort reality itself. I witnessed this principle in actions recently while mentoring a struggling team member. Despite providing technical guidance for weeks, I saw little improvement in their performance. Then, during one conversation, I genuinely expressed how much I valued their unique perspective on customer needs, something they truly excelled at. The change was remarkable. Their entire demeanor shifted, and over the following weeks, not only did their technical work improve, but they began contributing ideas they previously kept to themselves. That single moment of renewed appreciation, making them feel important in a specific, authentic way, unleashed potential that criticisms and technical instructions alone couldn't assess. Now, it's crucial to understand that Carnegie isn't advocating for manipulations or empty flattery. He explicitly warns against this. The principle isn't fake appreciation to get what you want. It's recognize the genuine worth in others and express it sincerely. As Carnegie's right, the difference between appreciations and flattery, that's simple. One is sincere and the other insincere. One comes from the heart out, the others from the teeth out. One is unselfish, the other selfish. One is universally admired, the other universally condemned. Throughout history, the most effective leaders have intuitively understood this principle. Carnegie gives a fascinating example that demonstrates the extraordinary power of making others feel important. Consider Charles Schwab, who became the first person ever to earn $1 million salary as president of U.S. Steel under Andrew Carnegie. What made him so valuable? It wasn't technical knowledge. As Schwab himself said, I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people the greatest asset I possessed. And how did he arouse his enthusiasm? By giving sincere appreciation. He explained, I'm hearty in my approbations and lavish in my praise. When he walked through the steel mills, he didn't just observe operations, he acknowledged good work. He didn't just find flaws, he found things to compliment. And through his genuine appreciations, he made people feel important. Even more compelling is Carnegie's example of Abraham Lincoln. During the Civil War, Lincoln wrote a letter to General Hooker that perfectly demonstrates this principle. The letter contained criticisms, yes, but notice how Lincoln started. I believe you to be a brave and skillful soldier, which of course I like. You are ambitious, which within reasonable bounds does good rather than harm. Only after establishing this sincere appreciation did Lincoln address his concerns. He knew that recognizing the general's value would make his criticisms more acceptable. This wasn't manipulation, it was profound understanding of human psychology. Even the most powerful rulers understood this principle. Catherine the Great, one of history's most skilled rulers, explicitly stated, praise loudly, blame softly. She recognized that public appreciation magnifies its impact, why public criticisms only create a resentment. Let's explore another historical example that Carnegie doesn't mention, but which perfectly illustrates this principle. Gandhi, despite leading a revolutions against British rule in India, always made a point to acknowledge the virtues of British civilizations and justice. Even while criticizing their colonial policies, this approach won him respect from many British officials and citizens who might otherwise have dismissed him entirely. By recognizing what was worthy of appreciation in his opponent, he created space for dialogue that otherwise might have been impossible. The historical pattern is clear, from ancient rulers to modern leaders. Those who master the art of sincere appreciation wield extraordinary influence, not through force but through connection. The evolutionary roots of our need for importance. This principle isn't just historically validated, it's biologically wired into us. From an evolutionary perspective, feeling valued by our tribe was literally a matter of survival. Social rejections in prehistorical times often meant death, as humans couldn't survive alone. Our brains evolved to treat social acceptance as essential as food and shelter. These explain the overwhelming pain of rejections and the profound pleasure of appreciations. When someone genuinely values us, our brains register it as a signal of security. We belong, we are safe, we'll survive. This triggers a cascade of positive neurochemicals, including dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, chemicals associated with pleasure, well-being, and bonding. The psychology of appreciations in modern life. In our modern world, this ancient drive for importance manifests in fascinating ways. Consider these psychological findings. Studies show that employees would rather receive sincere recognitions than a bonus in many cases. Researchers found that customers who feel personally valued spend an average of 31% more with those businesses. Marriage researcher John Gottman discovered that relationship needs at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one to remain healthy. Neuroimaging shows that brain responds to personal appreciation similarly to how it responds to monetary rewards. Yet, despite these powerful effects, appreciations remain remarkably scarce. A Gallup study found that 65% of Americans reported receiving no recognitions in the workplace in the past year. Most people can recall criticisms they received years ago, but struggle to remember the last time they received specific and meaningful appreciations. This creates what I call an appreciation vacuum in our society, a chronic deficiency that affects our mental health, our relationships, and our performance. When someone steps into that vacuum with genuine recognitions, the impact is magnified because the need is so rarely met. Cross-cultural perspectives on appreciations. This principle transcends cultural boundaries, though its expressions varies. In Japan, appreciation is often shown through attention to detail and anticipating needs rather than verbal praise. In Mediterranean cultures, appreciation might be expressed more demonstratively. In Scandinavian countries, it's often conveyed more subtly. But the underlying psychology remains constant. Humans everywhere need to feel valued. Understanding cultural variations simply helps us express appreciations in ways that resonate authentically with different people. For example, in some Asian culture, public praise may cause embarrassment, while in American business culture, public recognition is often highly valued. The principle isn't to praise in one particular way, it's to convey genuine appreciation in a manner that respects the recipient's culture, backgrounds, and personal preferences. Let's dive deeper into the psychological mechanisms that make appreciation so powerful. Why exactly does this work? When someone receives genuine appreciations, their brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter activated by rewards like food or money. This creates a positive associations with both the person giving appreciations and the behavior being appreciated. Essentially, appreciations rewires the brain to repeat whatever earned that recognition. But there's something deeper happening too. In our modern world, many people suffer from what psychologists call recognition deficit disorder, a chronic lack of acknowledgement for their contributions and qualities. We spend our days in environments where criticisms flow freely, but appreciation is scarce. The average workplace sees 4 negative exchange for every positive one. In struggling relationships, that ratios can reach 20 to 1. Yet, research by relationship expert John Gottman showed that healthy relationships maintain a ratio of at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one. This explains why genuine appreciation stands out so dramatically. It's rare. When you offer it sincerely, you're meeting a chronically unfulfilled need. The key word here is sincere. Our instincts for detecting insincerity are remarkably acute. Empty flattery triggers suspicions rather than appreciations. As Carnegie emphasized, flattery is counterfeit, and like counterfeit money, it will eventually get you into trouble if you try to pass it. So what makes appreciation genuine? 3 elements. Number 1, specific Number 1, specificity. Identifying exactly what you valued about the person. Number 2, effort. Showing you've paid enough attention to notice something non-obvious. Connections. Linking the quality you appreciate to something you genuinely value. For example, rather than saying, "Great job on that report," try, "I was impressed by how clearly you explained our complex data in that report. You made it accessible while still maintaining technical accuracy. That's a rare skill." The difference is dramatic. The first statement could be said to anyone about anything. The second demonstrates that you truly noticed, valued, and understood their specific contribution. Let's explore what modern research tells us about appreciations and discuss practical applications across different domains of life. The science behind this principle has expanded dramatically since Carnegie's time, confirming and deepening his insight. The science of appreciations. Recent neuroscience research has transformed our understanding of how appreciations affect the brain. Using functional MRI scans, researchers can now see that receiving genuine appreciations activates the ventral striatum, the brain's reward center, in patterns similar to receiving monetary rewards. Even more fascinating, studies show that for many people, social recognitions create a stronger and more lasting positive effect than financial rewards alone. In one prominent participant who received genuine appreciations for their work continued to perform at high levels even after the appreciation stopped, while those who received monetary bonuses returned to baseline performance as soon as the bonuses ended. The explanations? Appreciations affects our internal motivations rather than just our external behavior. It shifts our identity. We begin to see ourselves as the kind of person who embodies the appreciated qualities. Psychologist Darrell Drake's research on growth mindsets connects perfectly with this principle. When we appreciate people's efforts and strategies rather than just their natural abilities, we foster resilience and continuous improvement. I appreciate how you tackled that complex problem with such persistence. It's more powerful than "you're so smart," because it's recognized qualities the person can control and replicate. Organizational behavior research adds another layer of validations. A comprehensive study by Bersins and Associates found that companies with recognitions-rich cultures have 31% lower voluntary turnover rates and significantly higher productivity metrics compared to those without such cultures. Now, let's translate this research into practical applications across different domains of life. Professional relationships. In workplace settings, appreciation has extraordinary power when it's specific, timely, and linked to values or goals that matters to the recipients. Example approach. Instead of generic praise like "good job on the project," try "I noticed how you stayed calm during that client crisis and found a creative solutions under pressure." That kind of composure is exactly what makes our team resilient. Research shows that employees who receive regular, specific appreciations are 44% more engaged and 33% more likely to innovate than those who don't. Yet, 65% of workers report receiving no recognitions in the past year. The timing of appreciations matters too. The most effective recognition comes as close as possible to the behavior being recognized. This creates a clear connection between the actions and the appreciations. A recognition program I implemented at the previous organizations used digital tools that allows immediate peer-to-peer appreciations, which could then be shared with managers. The results were a 27% increase in measured employee engagement within 6 months. For leaders, a practical system is essential. Some effective approaches include keeping a recognition journal when you note specific contributions you observe, setting calendars reminders to ensure regular appreciation conversations, creating teams rituals where appreciation is shared publicly, using the appreciation sandwich in performance discussions, starting and ending with genuine recognitions while addressing development needs in between. Be the leader or colleague who changes these patterns. Make it a habit to notice one specific contribution from a team member daily and express appreciations that connects their effort to a larger purpose. Relationships. With family, we often fall into patterns of taking each other for granted. We notice what goes wrong more often than what goes right. Carnegie would urge us to reverse these patterns. Example approach. Instead of focusing on what your child needs to improve, try I notice how patiently you help your younger brother with this homework today. That kind of kindness makes such a difference in our family. For partners, look beyond the routine. I appreciate how you always remember to pick up my favorite snack at the store. It's a small thing, but it shows me you're thinking about what makes me happy. The key with family is consistency over time. Brief, genuine appreciations expressed regularly create a culture of recognitions that strengthens bonds and encourage more positive behaviors. Family therapist Virginia Satar found that children who receive regular, specific appreciations develop stronger self-esteem and were more resilient in the face of peer pressure. The pattern was clear. Children who felt genuinely valued at home were less likely to seek validation through destructive behavior outside the home. One technique that works remarkably well is the appreciation dinner, a weekly family meal where each person shares something they genuinely appreciated about each family member that week. This ritual establishes a culture where noticing and expressing values become habitual. Another powerful practice is creating appreciation journals for children. notebooks where parents regularly write specific, detailed observations of qualities and actions they appreciate. These become treasured possessions that children return to throughout their lives, especially during challenging times. Customer and client relationships. The principle works powerfully in business context too. When customers feel personally valued, their loyalty increased dramatically. Example approach. Rather than a generic thanks for your business, try I noticed this is your fifth order this year, and I just wanted to personally thank you for your loyalty. Customers like you who value quality are exactly why we're so passionate about what we do. A study by the Gallup organizations found that customers who feel emotionally connected to a business deliver 23% more revenue and demonstrate significantly higher loyalty. Making customers feel important creates that emotional connection. The most effective businesses systematize appreciations without losing authenticity. Ritz-Carlton hotels are famous for their customer preference database, where staff record specific details about guests, not just their service preferences, but personal details like anniversaries or favorite sports teams. This allows staff to offer personalized recognitions that feel genuinely thoughtful rather than scripted. Small businesses often have an advantage in this area. A local bookstore I frequent keeps track of my reading preferences and sends personalized recommendations. These specific appreciations of my taste create loyalties that massive online retailer can't easily match despite their algorithm. The principle extends to digital customer experience too. Companies that create systems to recognize customer milestones, like Amazon's "You've been a customer since blah blah blah" message, foster a sense of relationships that transcends transactions. Challenging relationships. Perhaps most powerful is applying this principle with difficult people or in challenging relationships. Example approach. With a challenging colleague, look for something genuine to appreciate. I've noticed you always speak up when you see problems in our plans. While we sometimes disagree on solution, your commitment to getting things right ultimately makes our work better. This approach doesn't mean ignoring problems, but it creates a foundation of goodwill that makes addressing those problems more productive. Conflict resolution specialists have found that beginning difficult conversations with sincere appreciations dramatically increase the likelihood of productive outcomes. It disrupts the defensive posture people typically adopt when they expect criticisms. Even in the most strained relationships, finding genuine qualities to appreciate creates an opening that confrontation alone cannot achieve. Marriage counselors report that when couples in crisis can identify and express appreciations for each other's positive qualities, real conciliations become significantly more likely. Digital Digital communication. In our increasingly digital world, appreciations can get lost in translation. Written messages lack the warmth of voice and body language, making it even more important to be specific and genuine. Example approach. Instead of thanks for the email, try I appreciate how thoroughly you analyzed these problems in your email. Your detailed approach saved us significant time in finding a solution. Digital communication platforms now offer features specifically designed for appreciations, from reactions emojis to specialized recognition systems in workplace tools. Why this can be valuable, they are most effective when the content of the appreciations remains specific and personal rather than automated. Some effective techniques for digital appreciations include using video messages instead of a text for importance recognitions, creating digital appreciation boards where team members publicly recognize contributions, establishing specific channels dedicated to celebrating successes and expressing gratitude, using voice notes which carries more emotional nuance than text alone. Remember, in all these contexts, the goal isn't manipulations. It's genuinely recognizing the value others bring. As Carnegie is right, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. When we satisfy this craving sincerely, we create connections that transforms our relationships. I would like to offer a practical exercise. Think of someone in your life whose contributions you may have been taking for granted. What specific qualities or actions could you sincerely appreciate about them? Make a commitment to express that appreciations within 24 hours and notice how it affects your connections. That we understand the foundations, principle, and applications of appreciations, let's explore more advanced technique and common pitfalls that can undermine its effectiveness. Mastering these skills requires both practice and awareness of potential missteps. Advanced appreciations techniques. The appreciations inquiry. Beyond simple recognitions, the appreciations inquiry techniques invites deeper explorations. When you notice something positive, rather than just acknowledging it, express curiosity about it. For example, I've noticed you have an extraordinary ability to calm tense situations. I'm curious, how did you develop that skill? What do you think about when you're in those moments? This approach does more than recognize. It demonstrates that you valued the qualities enough to want to understand it better. It creates a conversation rather than just a compliment, deepening the connections and often helping the person recognize strength they take for granted. Vicarious appreciation method. This powerful technique involves appreciating someone to others when they aren't present. Research showed that Learning you've been positively discussed in your absence create a particularly strong impression of sincerity. For example, telling a colleague, I was just telling our client how thoughtfully you structured that proposal. Then sharing the specific aspect you highlighted. When done genuinely, this creates a double impact, both from appreciation itself and from knowing it wasn't said simply to gain favor in the moment. The appreciations letter. In our digital age, taking the time to write a detailed handwritten letter of appreciations stands out dramatically. The most effective appreciation letters focus entirely on the recipients and their impact. Include 3 to 5 specific examples of qualities or actions you valued. Explain the difference these qualities have made in your life. Express genuine gratitude without request or expectation. I've seen these letters treasured for decades, retrieved during difficult times as reminder of one's values and impact. They represent an investment of time and thought that digital communications rarely matched. Appreciations through engaged listening. Sometimes the most profound way to make someone feel important is simply to listen with full attention. This means maintaining eye contact, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, reflecting back what you've heard, avoiding interruptions, and setting aside distractions like phones. In a world of constant partial attention, being fully present with someone communicates their importance more powerfully than words alone ever could. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Why the principle of making others feel important through appreciations is powerful. There are common mistakes that can undermine its effectiveness. Let's explore these pitfalls and how to avoid them. Number 1. Empty flattery. As Carnegie emphasized, there's a world of difference between appreciations and flattery. Appreciations comes from the heart, flattery comes from the teeth. People have remarkably accurate insincerity detectors, and when they sense manipulations, trust erodes quickly. How to avoid it? Before expressing appreciations, ask yourself these questions. Would I still say this if I needed nothing from this person? Can I identify specific examples that support these observations? Do I genuinely value the quality I'm recognizing? If the answer to any of this is no, reconsider your approach. Genuine appreciations may take more effort, but its impact is exponentially greater. Number 2. Generic praise. Statements like great job or you're awesome are so vague that they carry little meaning. They suggest you haven't paid enough attention to notice specific contributions. How to avoid it? Follow the specific impact value formula. Specific: identify exactly what you observed. Impact: explain the positive effect it has. Value: connect it to a broader principle or value you both share. For example, the way you simplified that technical information in the client presentation. Specific: make a complex concept accessible to everyone in the room. Impact: that kind of clarity is exactly what builds client trust in our expertise. Value. Pitfall number 3. Appreciations followed by but. Many of us unconsciously undermine our appreciations by immediately follow it with criticisms. Great presentations, but you should have included more data. How to avoid it? Separate appreciations from development feedback. Let appreciation stand on its own. If feedback is necessary, provide it separately or use the word and instead of but to avoid negating the positive message. Better approach. Your presentation was compelling. The stories really brought the concepts to life. And for next time, including more data would strengthen the analytical foundations of your argument. Pitfall number 4. Focusing only on results. Appreciating only achievements rather than efforts or qualities creates a performance-based culture where people feel valued only when they succeed. How to avoid it? Make a conscious effort to recognize effort independent of outcome, growth and improvement, character qualities demonstrated, creative approaches even when they don't succeed, resilience in the face of setbacks. This creates a more balanced approach to appreciations that recognize the full person, not just their successes. Pitfall number 5. Cultural misalignment. Different cultures have different norms around praise and recognitions. What feels appropriate in one context may feel uncomfortable or insincere in another. How to avoid it? Study cultural norms around appreciations in relevant contexts. For example, in some Asian cultures, group recognitions may be more appropriate than individual praise. In certain European contexts, appreciations may be expressed more subtly. In hierarchical cultures, public praises from superior may cause embarrassment. Pitfall number 6. Assuming one size fits all. Even within the same culture, different people prefer to receive appreciations in different ways. Some thrive on public recognitions, others find it embarrassing and prefer private acknowledgement. How to avoid it? Pay attention to how individuals respond to different forms of appreciations and tailor your approach accordingly. When in doubt, ask people how they prefer to be recognized. This attention to individual preference itself communicates that you value them as individuals. Pitfall number 7. The appreciations imbalance. Sometimes we focus on appreciations only on certain people while consistently overlooking others. Often those in supporting roles receive less recognition than those in more visible positions. How to avoid it? Conduct an appreciation audit. Make a list of people you interact with regularly and note when you last expressed specific appreciations to each person. Look for patterns of who might be consistently overlooked. Make a deliberate effort to notice and value contributions that might be less visible but are nonetheless essential. Pitfall number 8. Appreciation's inflation. When praise becomes too frequent or effusive, it can lose impact and credibility. Like any currency, appreciations can suffer from inflations if overused. How to avoid it? Focus on quality over quantity. Make each expression of appreciations meaningful and specific. Reserve stronger expressions for truly exceptional contributions rather than using superlatives for everyday actions. Remember, the goal isn't just to make people feel temporarily good. Is to create a genuine connections based on sincere recognitions of their value. When done authentically, this isn't manipulations, it's empathy in action. To bring these principles to life, I want to share a few remarkable stories of how making others feel important through genuine appreciations has transformed relationships and outcomes. The challenging employee. A manager I worked with inherited a team member with a reputation for being difficult. Previous managers have tried criticisms, warnings, and even threats to improve his performance, all without success. Instead of continuing this approach, she spent 2 weeks observing him carefully to find something genuine to appreciate. She noticed that while his interpersonal skills needed work, he was extraordinarily meticulous in his quality control, catching errors others missed. In their next one-on-one, she specifically acknowledged this quality and explained how it protected the company's reputation. For the first time, he felt seen for his strengths rather than just criticized for his weaknesses. This became the foundation for transformed relationships. Over the following months, he became more receptive to feedback about communication skills because it came from someone who genuinely valued his contributions. The family reconciliations. A woman I will call Sarah has been estranged from her father for nearly a decade after a bitter argument. When he became ill, she reluctantly visited him in the hospital. Rather than reopening old wounds, she decided to focus on appreciations, telling him specifically how his early emphasis on education has shaped her success in life. This genuine acknowledgement created an opening for real conciliations that neither criticisms nor demands could have achieved. They rebuilt their relationships in his final years, finding healings through mutual appreciation of each other's positive qualities. The business turnaround. A struggling local restaurant was known for excellent food but poor service. A new manager transformed the culture not through stricter rules but through consistent, specific appreciations of staff strength. The hostess, with a remarkable memory for customer names, was publicly praised for creating a welcoming atmosphere. A server with extensive wine knowledge was recognized as a team's beverage expert. Within months, employee turnover dropped dramatically, service improved, and customer reviews reflected the change. The financial turnaround followed naturally from this cultural shift based on making team members feel genuinely valued for their specific contribution. These stories demonstrate that appreciation isn't just a nice to have soft skill, is a transformational approach to human connection with tangible results in every domain of life. As we reach the end of our explorations of Carnegie's second principle, let's summarize what we've discovered and the invitations it offers us. We've learned that the desire to feel important is perhaps the deepest human craving, more fundamental than many physical needs. When we satisfy this hunger in others through genuine, specific appreciations, we create connections that can transform our relationships, our work, and our communities. We have seen how this principle has been leveraged by effective leaders throughout history, from Abraham Lincoln to successful business executives. We've explored the psychology behind why appreciation works so powerfully, and we've identified practical applications across various relationships in our life. We've examined advanced techniques that can enhance our effectiveness and common pitfalls that can undermine our intentions. We have witnessed through real stories how this principle can transform even the most challenging relationships. Carnegie tells us, you have it easily in your power to increase the sum total of this world's happiness now. How? By giving a few words of sincere appreciation to someone who is lonely or discouraged. What a remarkable power we all possess! I want to leave you with a challenge. In the next 24 hours, identify 3 people whose contributions to your life you've been taking for granted. For each person, express specific, sincere appreciations for something they do or quality they possess. Notice how it affects them and how it affects you. Consider making this a daily practice, what I call the daily appreciations rituals. Each day, identify one person and one specific quality or actions to appreciate. Over time, this habit will transform not only your relationships but your own perspective. You will begin to see the world through a lens of appreciation rather than criticism. Remember, this isn't about manipulations or getting what you want. It's about recognizing the genuine value in others and expressing it sincerely. As Carnegie writes, it's about making the other person feel important and doing it sincerely. In our next episode, we will explore Carnegie's third principle of deepening human connections. Until then, I'm Ling, reminding you that meaningful connections begins with seeing the importance in others. Thank you for joining me on the art of meaningful connection.